Hi, I'm David Falloure, and welcome. I'm going to do a traditional wine decanting, and just like in the scene from the book Counterclockwise that I wrote. So I'm glad you're here and joining me for this. And we're going to start with the bottle. The way you carry a bottle of old red wine is never just grab it by the neck and walk around. You always carry it in the horizontal, almost gently, like a bottle of nitroglycerin. So you set it down quite gently. And the first thing you do is you take the point from your corkscrew and you peel off the foil that's around the neck. Now, back in the day, they used to use lead, and that's one of the reasons why you wanted to pull it off, because you didn't want to get lead poisoning, right? But they still use metals, and besides that, there's goo that can get trapped up under there. And you want to get all that off, so it's nice to have a paper towel close by that's a little bit damp, and you just clean it off, get that stuff off. There's probably not too much on this one. This is a 2007 Cabernet. It is from Vermeil Vineyards in California. And Dick Vermeil, who was a great NFL coach, it's his family vineyard, and a great guy. So you go ahead and you begin to open your wine and you gently insert the corkscrew and you begin to turn. Now, obviously, I'm using one of these and I'm not using the kind that's just holding the pop. You want to use something like this that has the prongs that go around the neck, and you keep going, and you keep the bottle horizontal. Now, as the cork starts to emerge, you begin to raise the bottle to about 15, maybe 20 degrees. And you pull that cork all the way out. Now, there are some vintages you're going to have a lot of problems with that, but that's not what we're going to train you for today. And again, you want to keep that bottle as horizontal as possible. And then we're going to take our light. Now, I normally use a flashlight and I put a number 4 coffee filter in the funnel. But because I want to do this in the traditional way, I'm using candlelight and no filter, so no net for this one. And if you're wondering why I put the coffee filter in the dregs glass, well, the name dregs implies there's going to be some goo that gets caught up in there, and we don't want to drink that. It'll make you sick. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing this, and I'm going to be looking at the liquid with the candle behind it so that I can see the sediments coming up and getting close to the neck. All right, so what we do is we put the candle behind the bottle so that you're actually using the fluid to filter the light. But if you look carefully, and I know it's going to be hard with the camera, but if you look carefully, you're going to see some mottling or some dots in the fluid or on the bottle, and that's actually the stuff we're trying to avoid getting. So the way you do this is you begin to pour very slowly, and you never go back. Once you start, you never go back. And yes, it's going to get messy, and that's just the way it goes. Keep it going. And you don't want to get the flame too close to the bottle because you don't want to heat up the wine. But I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually a little glob of goo trying to come up. So I've really got to be careful so that it doesn't get in the funnel. I begin to look back towards the bottle, and I can see more of it. I know it's hard, but you'll probably see it when the dregs come up. The guy that taught me how to do this was my father-in-law, Robert Piscini. Taught me from the very start when I began dating his daughter, my wife now, how to decant wines. And he taught my sons how to do it. And it's a great tradition to learn. Because it really, what it does, here you go, you'll be able to see it now. Here's some of this goo that you don't want. This is exactly what we're trying to avoid. But what this does is this honors the whole winemaking process, from the growers to those who pick it, crush it, from the guy who builds the cask that it's aged in, all the way through the blenders. Look at that. And this is where you stop, and you pour that in here because you don't want to lose a drop of this stuff. And we really did pretty good, because that's all that's in the dregs. But if you look inside, take a look, and you'll see a lot of that. So when this actually filters through, there'll be a lot caught up in the bottom. But the older a red wine gets, the more of this that accumulates. And you really don't want to be drinking that at all. So, All right, now that we've got the decanting done, here comes the best part. Your first taste of the wine after you've done this. Kind of swirl it around the glass. This brings back the story that my mother-in-law tells on her very first date with my father-in-law. They went out to dinner and he had poured a glass of wine and she wasn't really paying attention at the moment and he said, "Oh, what legs?" And she whipped around and gave him a bad look because she thought, you know, is he looking at some other woman? And when she saw him, he was admiring the legs that will form on the inside of the glass from the wine. And the more pronounced those legs, the better the wine. Really, really nice. I hope you learned a little bit of something out this, and I hope you enjoyed Counterclockwise. Thanks for joining me.